This is not a drill, folks, and America stands on a knife's edge. Looters have turned Chicago into a free-for-all. ICE is gearing up for a nationwide deportation blitz, unlike anything we've ever seen. Next week, it all goes nuclear. So you're about to watch the clash that will define our cities. But don't just take it from me, guys. Here's what's happening right now. Now, of course, you've got President Trump. Trump's administration is launching ICE crackdowns in Illinois. You've also got in Chicago, ICE fears turn Mexican parade into a ghost town. I mean, Trump's administration begins new ICE operation in Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, President Donald J. Trump of the United States, he's bringing the lasso out. Let's just say that, right? Let that sink in, because what I'm about to tell you, this is the most important crossroads America has faced in at least decades. So right now, there are two storms that are colliding. On one side, you've got ICE deportations that are about to set to surge higher than anything that we've ever seen before. But then on the other side, Chicago's looting chaos. This is the smash and grab madness. It is about to spill out of the Windy City and into every corner of America. So here's the question I really am kind of wrestling with right now. Are we standing on the brink of a comeback victory for law and order, or are we on the brink of a full-scale collapse where criminals rule the streets and sanctuary politicians look the other way? Because make no mistake, next week decides everything. So now let's get into these deportations and why they're about to skyrocket. So the Supreme Court just a couple of days ago handed President Trump a massive 6-3 victory. What does that mean? Well, it means ICE no longer has their hands tied. The court lifted restrictions on the so-called roving patrols in California. That exact tool right there is what Trump promised that he would use to launch the largest deportation campaign in American history. Justice Sotomayor, in a very fiery dissent, warned that this ruling lets agents seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, or works a low-wage job. But Justice Kavanaugh fired back, saying ethnicity can be one factor among many. Translation, ICE doesn't have to close its eyes anymore. They can finally enforce the law. Now, here's the situation. What happens when thousands of agents, suddenly unchained, hit the streets of Chicago, Boston, New York, and Los Angeles? What happens when the very rules that Democrats use to block enforcement are obliterated by the highest court in the land? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it means deportations won't just rise. They're going to surge like a tidal wave, and it's not next year. It's not months away. This is happening next week. So do you know what it's really like in the fine print on your Medicare plan? Like, do you know what's really down there? Most people just kind of look at the fine print and they just say, it looks okay, right? No one really reads that tiny font. Most people don't read that, and this is exactly how insurance companies like it. Hidden costs, sneaky clauses. These are costing retirees money every single day. This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why I partner with Chapter. They specialize in reviewing Medicare plans line by line. They get that little magnifying glass out so they can see that little tiny fine print down there, and they're making sure that you are not paying for coverage that you don't use or even losing benefits that you deserve. Now, one of my viewers told me, I finally understood my Medicare plan for the first time after talking with Chapter. That knowledge changed everything. So ask yourself, would you rather stay stuck in the fine print or join the thousands, literally thousands, who have already called Chapter to see the truth? Now, most people, they're calling the phone number down below on your screen right there, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. The telephone number is 909-563-8279. All right, guys, because this right here, this is where it gets real. DHS has already kicked off Operation Midway Blitz out of the Naval Station Great Lakes. 300 ICE agents are staged there, locked, loaded, and running raids straight through October. Early results? Dozens already arrested, with ICE dropping a most wanted list that reads like the roster of a horror movie. Gang members, kidnappers, armed repeat offenders. Now, here's the trigger. This is no local cleanup operation. Operation Midway Blitz, this is the template. So what happened in Illinois is about to be basically copy-pasted across sanctuary cities nationwide. Boston is already on notice under Operation Patriot 2.0. Raids are rumored for New York. Los Angeles is on edge. And if Georgia's Hyundai plant sweep taught us anything, you guys heard about the Hyundai car plant shutdown the other day, right? This is that nobody is safe from the net, not even foreign nationals with powerful governments backing them. So the real question today is this: who's next? Which city is going to wake up next? Which city is going to wake up next week to federal buses that are lined up, ICE agents swarming factories, and politicians screaming into cameras while violent offenders are hauled away? Because the playbook is written and Trump is running it page for page. So while federal forces are tightening their grip, Chicago is unraveling right in front of our eyes. I mean, you saw it. Daylight smash and grabs at the Rolex store at East Tehran, looters smashing windows, hauling out very expensive timepieces, watches worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, fleeing in a red SUV, crashing into parked cars and tossing the evidence into the street. This is the kind of madness you would expect in a collapsing third world country, and it's happening in downtown Chicago. And what happened to those looters? Nothing. No arrests on site. Why? Because police are too busy babysitting protests, tied up by a mayor's no arrest policy that coddles criminals and abandons citizens. Now think about that. Law-abiding families cannot walk down Michigan Avenue without dodging smash and grabs, but the so-called leadership of Chicago is more worried about not offending activists than protecting its own people. That's not policy. That is clearly betrayal. And so here's where the two storms collide. Trump's deportation surge is designed to purge criminal illegals, but in cities like Chicago, local politicians are practically handing the streets to looters. This is why the tension is about to snap. And when it does, it won't stay contained to Chicago. So yeah, Trump's promised immigration crackdown in Chicago could last about 6 weeks, Suburban official says. Now, that is a headline that I just saw the other day. Also, there's another one. Trump directs ICE to expand deportations in Democrat-run cities undeterred by protests. Guys, let me break this down for you, okay? Operation Midway Blitz has just launched in Chicago. A ruthless ICE crackdown targeting criminal, undocumented immigrants with no warning for city leaders, okay? Meanwhile, communities in fear, they're turning parades into ghost towns. The Mexican Independence Day parade in Pilsen, it was practically empty. Dancers handed out Know Your Rights flyers instead of high fives. Don't think it's just Chicago, though. Patriot 2.0 enforcement has set Boston as its next target, stepping up deportation operations in another sanctuary city stronghold. Federal authorities have leased a naval base near Chicago, staging ground for ICE raids and possibly troops. Hint, this is bigger than we thought, folks. And mark your calendars. This is no short-lived blitz. Reports confirm a 6-week operation centered in suburban Broadview will begin next week, processing detainees at scale. So here's the question that's burning in America's heart right now. When looters destroy our cities with impunity, is the federal government set to save us or dismantle us? Now, if you click away, you're going to miss the fallout, guys. So stick with me, grab some popcorn, because what I'm about to build toward next, this is going to determine whether or not our cities survive or descend into chaos. All right. So here's a very important piece no one's really talking about. This is where we go from bad to worse, because while ICE is dragging these dangerous criminals off the streets, activists are running interference. I mean, they're basically setting the pick. We've seen all the videos. Chicago's Southwest Side, a flower vendor being pulled into custody, agents wearing ICE vests, badges, even one with a Trump lapel pin. And then what happens? Activists fled the streets, screaming kidnapping, cameras rolling, volunteers handing out Know Your Rights flyers like they're party favors. But I want to ask you this. If these people are innocent saints, why does it take 10 federal agents to detain them? Why are they on ICE's radar in the first place? I mean, these are some basic questions that we should really be asking ourselves, right? This isn't about rights. This is about defiance. These activists aren't standing up for the law. They're standing in the way of it. And every time they clash with ICE, it sends a message to the criminals that are hiding in our cities. Don't worry, we got your back. That's not resistance, that's collaboration. And it makes you wonder, like, at what point does protecting the community become outright harboring lawbreakers? But maybe the clearest proof of Chicago's rot isn't even on the streets. Maybe it's under the water. I mean, 90 cars pulled from the Chicago River in just days by chaos dryers. I mean, can you imagine this? 90 cars being pulled from the Chicago River Some of these cars were stolen. Some were linked to missing person cases. Some were rusted out for decades. A graveyard of crime sitting right under the surface while city leaders are pretending that everything is under control. Now, I want you to think about the symbolism there, okay? Looters running wild in the streets, cars rotting in the river, crime literally above and below ground in one of America's great cities, and the officials, they're silent. They're redirecting police resources to guard protests, writing press releases while families bury loved ones. This is corruption on top of chaos, and it forces a very hard question. If this much lawlessness has been allowed to fester in Chicago, how much deeper does it run in New York, in Los Angeles, in Boston, right? Because if there are 90 cars under the Chicago River, how many skeletons, literal or political, are hiding beneath every one of these sanctuary cities in America? I mean, it's a legit question, right? So now here's where things take a turn that should definitely send a chill down everyone's spine. The National Guard. President Trump, he has already said it outright. He sent troops into Los Angeles and, in his words, saved the city. Now he's hinting Chicago could be next. Tanks, boots, flashbangs on American streets. Faith leaders are calling it militarization. Democrats are screaming dictatorship, but ask the people looted in broad daylight. Ask the people who are living in downtown where Rolex stores are literally being looted in broad daylight. Ask them if they want more protest or if they would rather have armed soldiers shutting down the madness. Let's be honest here, guys. This isn't about optics anymore. This is about survival. When the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago refuse to enforce basic law and order, the question becomes unavoidable. Does Trump send in the National Guard, or does he just go ahead and let the city burn? Because when looters feel untouchable and activists cheer them on, drastic times call for drastic measures. And if that means Humvees rolling through the Magnificent Mile, don't be shocked if next week Chicago looks less like a city and more like a battlefield. But don't think for a second that this ends in Chicago. Boston has already been flagged under Operation Patriot 2.0. Massachusetts ICE sweeps are underway. Georgia's Hyundai plant was raided with hundreds detained, many South Korean nationals, proving this crackdown isn't just about Latino migrants. It's about anyone who's here illegally. And whispers are getting louder and louder about New York and Los Angeles being next. So that's the real prediction that's baked into this moment. Chaos breeds crackdowns. Looting in Chicago will be the excuse to hit New York, okay? Now, basically, we're seeing protests in Boston, and this may actually justify an even bigger wave in California. Every act of lawlessness fuels President Trump's mandate to enforce order with ICE, with raids, with troops if necessary. So when I say next week deportations will surge while looting explodes in other cities, I'm not guessing. I'm actually reading the script that's already playing out right in front of us. Chicago is just the spark. This fire is about to go national. Mark my words, guys. And of course, there's no meltdown will be complete without the political circus. You got Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. He calls Trump a wannabe dictator. I know, right? So Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, he orders police not to cooperate with ICE and even demands officers wear different uniforms so that they don't get mistaken for federal agents. And Senators Durbin and Duckworth, they marched right up to the Navy base, staging this operation, and DHS literally locked the doors and walked out. This is how deep the standoff goes. Now, here's the situation, guys. Who actually runs these cities? The elected leaders who refuse to enforce the law, or the federal government that's sworn to protect American citizens when local officials will not? Because basically, sanctuary city politicians, they're going to keep screaming about human rights. Meanwhile, these violent criminals, they're just going to continue to walk free. Something has to be done. You got families like Katie Abrams killed by an illegal immigrant drunk driver. They're being left to bury their loved ones with no justice. This is not a power struggle anymore. This is a showdown between federal authority and the politicians who've chosen criminals over citizens. And so next week, one side is going to be winning really big and the other side is going to be taking a big L. So here we are, guys. We're staring right into the storm. Next week, ICE deportations could surge, skyrocket to record levels. Next week, Chicago's chaos explodes outward into other cities. Next week, America is choosing between law and order, under President Trump's enforcement or collapse and chaos under sanctuary policies. We'll definitely see what happens. The path is crystal clear, though. On the one side, you got agents, troops, and the hammer of the federal law coming down pretty hard. But on the other side, you got looters laughing, criminals running free, and politicians blaming everyone but themselves. So which way do we go? Does America finally take back its cities, or do we just kind of, let every major metro turn into the next Chicago? Well, this is the question that's hanging over our heads right now. So mark my words, guys, by this time next week, we're going to have our answer. Like, share, comment down below. Do you believe Trump's crackdown will save our cities? Or is this chaos already too far gone? YouTube thinks that you're really going to enjoy the video that just popped up on your screen right there. Click that video and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.